I'm Katrina Johnson from New Sky Consulting and the Community Access and Transition Service, and you're watching the CATS channel, supporting young people with disabilities to live their best and brightest life. And today I want to talk to you about the NDIS, the National Disability Insurance Scheme. There's a lot of information out there at the moment about the NDIS, and to me it seems as though it seems to be veiled in a great deal of uncertainty and fear. Service providers, they're scared, they're uncertain, they're worried. They don't know how it is they're supposed to retain clients, how they're supposed to attract new clients, how they're going to meet their existing funding costs and expenses. And they're actually fearful and wondering, do they have a role under NDIS, and will they even be here? Families and people with disabilities also have their own sense of uncertainty and their own sense of fear. They're asking questions like, well, I already get funding. What happens to my existing funding? Will I actually be better off under the NDIS, or will I lose supports? I really don't want to be worse off. So there's a great deal of uncertainty, and that also comes with a great deal of fear. So is the NDIS to be feared or revered? Well, the answer to that question is quite simply, it's up to you. You can fear it, or you can revere it. You can get amongst it, you can evolve with it, you can choose to see it as an opportunity, as a way forward, and you can get in the sandpit and you can play. In my world, and that is the world of CATS, as an organisation, we've decided to get involved. We've decided to embrace the change. We've decided that we want to be part of the NDIS. We want to be part of this next movement of change for the better for people with disabilities. We know that if we really do want to get to where we're going for people with disabilities, where they are, where they aspire to be, where they want to be and where they deserve to be, we have to challenge mediocrity. We have to challenge the status quo. We cannot stay where we are. We need to move forward. So we've decided to dance with the change. So I want to help you, and I want to help your family member with a disability to also get in that space, to move into the space where you're a little bit more comfortable about progressing and evolving and getting involved with the change. And to do that, I want to tell you a little bit more about the NDIS, and over the coming weeks just start to unfold and unravel and give a little bit more information about my understanding of the NDIS and how you can start to work through it, and the things you can start to do right now, particularly if you're in Queensland and you're looking at a July 2016, what you can do right now to start getting yourself or your family member or loved one with a disability ready for the NDIS. So let's begin. Let's start with, what is the NDIS? The NDIS stands for the National Disability Insurance Scheme. It's a national program and a scheme funding people with disability support needs. Now, they will fund people who are in Australia and who are Australian citizens, who have a permanent and significant disability, and whose disability is attributed to a cognitive, an intellectual, a neurological, a sensory, a physical, or a psychiatric impairment or condition. The other thing that the NDIS is doing is it's saying it will support people and provide assistance to people with their everyday activities, and aims to provide community links and individualised support to people with disabilities. So that's who it does it for, and that's the aim of what it wants to do. The NDIS has started its rollout through pilots in other states. However, in Queensland, the rollout will start in July 2016. But it's anticipated that the rollout will take quite a few years, and they don't anticipate it will be the scheme will be in full flight or motion until about 2019. Now, these are projected dates, and these sorts of dates are impacted on by a range of other factors, such as a change in government and things like that. So whilst they're predicting that this may happen, we need to be aware and understand that it might not happen in those sorts of timeframes. But rest assured, a change in the system will happen. The other thing about the NDIS is, how is it managed? Well, the NDIS is managed by the NDIA. And the NDIA stands for National Disability Insurance Agency. And it's the agency that implements and rolls out the scheme. It's an independent agency and statutory body set up specifically to implement the NDIS. Now, each state, because it's a national scheme, each state becomes a party to the scheme, and they do that via an agreement. And part of that agreement states that the states, and is based on the fact that the states will contribute to the cost of the scheme. That's why the way people are currently funded through the state will be different, and it will change because the funding needs to contribute to the cost of the national scheme. How does the changes propose to actually improve on the current situation that we have? Well, the NDIS has a range of aims, and there's three quite significant ones. The first one is it really does aim to improve the efficiency and the effectiveness in the way in which people with disabilities are provided funding and supports in our country. The other thing that the NDIS really stand for are two key principles, and these principles underline the philosophies and values of the NDIS and the framework in which it will be delivered. So they're really important to know and to understand as you start to work your way through the scheme. And they are that the scheme is based on improving the choice and control that people with disabilities and their families have over the supports that they receive. The second one is that it's built on the principles of person-centred practices. So let's really unpack what those two philosophies are. Let's talk a little bit about what they mean. So the first one is choice and control. What they're saying in choice and control is that the NDIS aims to improve people's choice and their control over the course of their lives, and they can do that through having more control of the service types of the services that they access. And they also have an opportunity to have more control over the management of the funds that they receive. Person-centred practices is actually quite critical to the fund, to the scheme. And its notion is that the NDIS aims to put the person with a disability at the very centre of the process, and then all the funding decisions and all the process always happen with that person at the very centre of any decisions and any process. And it's about supporting the person with the disabilities' life, aspirations, their goals, and their participation in the life of their community. Very critical concept. So that's a few details about the NDIS. If you're really keen to know more right now, I would recommend two websites that you can subscribe to. The first one is the NDIS website itself, and I've got it listed below. The second one is Every Australian Counts, and this is the campaigners that were quite involved in getting the NDIS scheme heard in Parliament and passed. So that's my intro to you on the NDIS. So let's just summarise very quickly. The NDIS is coming. It will be the way that things are done into the future. Now, it may not look exactly like the powers that be have determined, but this system will come and it will change the way in which services are delivered and managed. So now I'd like to hear from you. What's your biggest fear around the NDIS, and what's your biggest hope around the NDIS? Make your comments below, and I'll have a look at those, and I look forward to hearing from you. And join me in the weeks to come as I start to talk more and more about the NDIS in greater detail, about how the funds are managed, what kinds of services are delivered, and things like that. In the meantime, if you are keen to know more about the NDIS, what changes are, then please subscribe to my channel and you'll get regular blog updates. Or if you want to know more right now, then go on the link below and you can download our ebook, the CATS ebook on the NDIS and you, which is just a very brief, user-friendly guide about the NDIS. Thanks for watching, and remember, we all deserve to live our best and brightest life.